Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking tonight. The Adani Group swings into damage control as stocks remain under pressure. Promoters to prepay loans worth 8,000 crore rupees to release some pledged shares of Adani Ports, Adani Green and Adani Transmission. Renowned valuation expert Professor Aswath Damodaran pegs the fair value of Adani Enterprises at 945 rupees a share. This implies a potential 40% decline from the current market value. Parliament remains paralysed as opposition parties demand a discussion on the Hindenburg report that raises red flags on the Adani Group. Congress launches All India protests as workers demonstrate outside the offices of SBI and LIC. SEBI directs designated depository participants to ask foreign portfolio investors to update beneficial owner details by the 30th of September. SEBI says that FPIs who fail to update will become ineligible and will have to sell their holdings by the 31st of March next year. That's a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Government opposes Hindustan Zinc's buyout of Zinc International assets for nearly $3 billion. Government sources say Vedanta's decision violates minority shareholder rights and corporate governance norms. The government owns more than 29% stake in Hindustan Zinc. That's another CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Vodafone Idea shares rally after the government becomes the single largest shareholder in the company with a 33% stake. The street believes the move is a near-term positive for Vodafone Idea, but long-term issues remain. Bank of America says the company needs capital infusion of at least $6 to $8 billion to remain competitive. The Monetary Policy Committee begins its three-day meeting and a rate decision is scheduled for Wednesday. CNBC-TV18 Citizen Monetary Policy Committee expects one last rate hike of 25 basis points before RBI hits a pause. At least 1,500 people are dead after two earthquakes struck Turkey and Syria in a 12-hour period. The death toll is expected to rise as many people are still trapped under debris. Aircraft manufacturing giant Boeing is betting big on India's component ecosystem as global supply chain issues linger. The president of Boeing International, Brendan Nelson, tells CNBC-TV18 the company is exploring more opportunities for joint ventures in India, reveals there are some big announcements lined up at the Aero India show. American music legend Beyoncé creates history for most career wins at the Grammys as she receives 4 awards for her album Renaissance. Proud moment for India too as music composer Ricky Cage wins his 3rd Grammy for the best immersive audio album Divine Tides. Well, first half the day's market action, Dalal Street ending largely lower as metal stocks remained a drag. The Nifty and the Sensex fell over 0.5%, but the broader markets did outperform today. Meanwhile, in the currency market, the rupee posting its biggest one-day fall against the US dollar since September of last year. In fact, the rupee ended at 82.73 against the greenback. Now, both muted stock markets and a strong dollar weighed on the rupee, and 82.72 is where it closed for the day. The big story that continues to be in focus, the sell-off in the Adani Group stocks continues for the 3rd week. Since the Hindenburg report was released, the Adani Group has lost about 9.4 lakh crore rupees in market capitalization. At its peak, the conglomerate's market cap was at nearly 25 lakh crore rupees. Before the Hindenburg report became public in January, the market cap was less than 20 lakh crore rupees. Over the weekend, S&P became the first rating agency to lower its outlook on Adani Ports and Adani Enterprises from stable to negative. Taking note of the unusual stock movement, market regulator SEBI also said it has put in place surveillance measures to address excessive volatility, though the SEBI statement did not name Adani specifically. Now, the Adani Group is moving to prepay $1.1 billion of its debt in a bid to allay fears of investors. The announcement did give a boost to shares of Adani Ports, but other group stocks remained under selling pressure. Vivek is standing by now with the latest on Adani Group's decision to prepay some of its debt. Vivek.
Well, that's absolutely right. So, in a press release that came in from the company, some very important details coming in, stating that the Adani Group promoters have actually posted almost $1.1 billion in order to reduce the percentage of pledged holdings in 3 of their group companies, and this is going to be ahead of the expected maturity, that is September 2024. So now, 3 group companies will see the percentage of pledged shareholding by the promoters come down. And when you're talking about Adani Adani Transmission, the promoters are looking to reduce the pledge by close to 1.4%. In Adani Green, almost by 3%. And very interestingly, in Adani Ports by 12%. Now, what is more interesting is the fact that, especially if you're talking about Adani Ports, where they're looking to reduce their, proportion of pledged shareholding by 12%, the total percentage of promoter holding pledged at the end of the December quarter was only close to around 17.3%. So a significant chunk of the pledged shareholding is being reduced. When it comes to Adani Green Energy, 3% out of the 4.36%, and when it comes to Adani Transmission, 1.4% of the total 6.6% pledge will be reduced.
Vivek, many thanks for joining us. Staying with the Adani Group, Professor Aswath Damodaran, an expert on valuation, says the fair value of Adani Enterprises share is 945 rupees. This implies a 40% downside from the current market price. Speaking exclusively to CNBC-TV18, Professor Damodaran said the Adani Group could be risking its core competencies in the effort to debunk the allegations made by the Hindenburg report. Take a look.
When momentum shifts, it never stops at fair value. It'll just push through. In my experience, when things start to spin out of control, the price will drop. It'll drop below the fair value. I mean, you'll swing back and forth across. So there is this very real danger of this becoming, something that feeds on itself and pushes the price down. So I think the next few days will be critical on that front. I mean, especially the week that's coming up, because if you're going to get people watching other people sell and decide to sell as well, and the bondholders start to pile on, this could very quickly become a food fight that pushes the price down well below the 950. When you buy a family group company, you're trusting the family to not take you to the cleaners, because the reality is you're exposed. The problem with an episode like this one is it shakes trust. When it shakes trust, you're saying, can I trust this family to essentially make sure my interests are being protected, whether I'm buying Adani Ports, Adani Power, Adani Transmission, because you are exposed. So I think that's one of the dangers coming out of this, is you're going to have a spillover effect of loss of trust. And it's in the Adani Group's best interest to now come in and kind of set those fears to rest as best as they can. Don't be defensive. Don't try to pull the patriotic card on this one, because I've seen some of them do it already, that this is a foreigner coming in and rocking the boat. That to me is the worst possible reaction. Use this as a way of constructively create change.
Well, that's Aswath Damodaran on the valuation of Adani Group stocks. Now, lawmakers of opposition parties protested outside Parliament against the government and the Adani Group. The government has so far not yielded to the opposition's demand of a joint parliamentary panel or a Supreme Court-monitored probe into the operations of the Adani Group, both houses being adjourned for the day amidst sloganeering and protest. The Congress party also staging protests outside the LIC and SBI branches across India.
सरकार नहीं, मोदी जी पूरी कोशिश करेंगे कि पार्लियामेंट में अदानी जी का डिस्कशन ना हो जाए। लाखों करोड़ रुपए का भ्रष्टाचार हुआ है, जो हिंदुस्तान का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कैप्चर किया गया है, उसके बारे में डिस्कशन हो, और अदानी जी के पीछे कौन सी शक्ति है वो भी देश को पता लग जाए।
आपको जो मुद्दा उठाना, अडानी हो, अंबानी हो, टाटा हो, बिरला, जो उठाना हो आप उठाइए ना। आप प्रेसिडेंशियल एड्रेस से तो डिबेट में भाग लेकर अपनी बात बोल सकते हैं, लेकिन इन लोगों के पास कोई मुद्दा नहीं है, इसलिए हाउस को उन्होंने एडजर्न करा दिया। तो अपनी बात कहने से ये लोग वंचित हो रहे हैं और हाउस को अनावश्यक जो है और डिसरप्ट कर रहे हैं।
So Parliament adjourned. Now, separately, an Uttar Pradesh power utility has cancelled the Adani Group's bid to supply around 7.5 million smart meters worth 5,400 crores. As per the chairman of the All India Power Engineers Federation, Adani's quote price of 10,000 rupees per meter was higher than the standard bidding guidelines. Abhimanyu joins us now with more details. Abhimanyu.
UP government sources have indicated that power utility Madhyanchal Vidyut Vitran Nigam has allowed for rebidding for supply of smart meters. The last date of bid submission is the 27th of February. Earlier, the bid was allocated to the Adani Group. However, it was cancelled on the 4th of February. UP government sources had indicated that the reasons behind cancellation were technical and were not directed against any particular company. The All India Power Engineers Federation had opposed the entry of private players, claiming that all four players who were in the fray earlier, namely the Adani Group, L&T, GMR and IntelliSmart Infra, do not manufacture smart meters. They had also claimed that the bid was overpriced, claiming that the smart meters were to be supplied on the basis of a cost of rupees 10,000 per smart meter as opposed to the cost of rupees 6,000 per smart meter, which is as per REC's standard bidding guideline. Adani Group has also emerged as the lowest bidder in the bids to supply smart meters by the DISCOMs in the Meerut and Agra regions. All India Power Engineers Federation had also cited the claim which was made earlier by the Vidyut Karamchari Sanyukt Sangharsh Samiti, who had sought cancellation of the bids, citing overpricing and alleged cartelization. It remains to be seen which private players are going to enter the fray as part of the fresh bidding process.
Abhimanyu, many thanks. In earnings corner, Adani Transmission reporting an over 77% increase in net profit in Q3 as compared to the same quarter last fiscal. Revenue grew 22% at over 3,550 crore rupees versus around 2,900 crore rupees on a yearly basis. Tata Steel has seen its net loss widen to over 2,500 crore rupees in Q3. This can be attributed to a deferred expense for insurance cover of UK employees. The overall expense due to liabilities in the UK was more than 2,150 crore rupees. Tata Steel's European operations reported an EBITDA per ton loss of $97. A quick check on crude prices, which have edged higher, driven by expectations that slower growth in major economies may limit fuel use. However, the International Energy Agency believes that China's recovery will be a key driver for oil prices. The IEA expects half of global oil demand growth this year to come in from China. Prime Minister Modi inaugurated the three-day India Energy Week in Bengaluru. This is the first major event under India's G20 presidency. 30,000 attendees, 500 speakers and over 650 exhibiting companies. The conference included strategies to deliver a multifaceted energy system and make energy accessible. Prime Minister Modi also inaugurated Hindustan Aeronautics helicopter factory in Karnataka. This will produce more than 1,000 helicopters with a total business of more than 4 lakh crore rupees, making it India's largest helicopter manufacturing facility. Here's a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Market regulator SEBI has sought updated details of foreign portfolio investors from bank units for greater clarity on registration and beneficial ownership. Prashant is standing by with the details. Prashant, explain this to us. What exactly is SEBI hoping to do?
Well, thanks very much for that. Now, what we understand from industry sources is that SEBI has written an email to banks who deal with FPI registration as a process. This email was sent out last Friday evening with a focus basically on two issues. One is FPI registration and the second is beneficial ownership. Let me explain this a bit. So what is SEBI saying? SEBI is asking what are called designated depository participants to reach out to their foreign portfolio investors by the 31st of March 2023. Designated depository participants, DDPs, by the way, are units within banks who deal with the specific function of FPI registration. So SEBI is asking these entities, DDPs, to in turn ask their FPIs who are registered with them to give them the updated beneficial owner details by the 30th of September this year. So there are very clear timelines here from the regulator. The SEBI communication says that if this is not done by the 30th of September, these FPIs would then become ineligible to continue their registration, which would then, according to the email, mean that they will have to sell their holdings, liquidate their holdings by the 31st of March 2024. I mean, I would like to add here that we've written to SEBI for an official comment and we are awaiting a response from them. Now, to explain this issue with some examples, right? As I said, SEBI is focusing on two things. Number one is registration of FPIs. If I can sort of use an example, if there is, for example, a German bank, which is a unit based out of Hong Kong or Singapore or anywhere else, which invests as an FPI in Indian markets, SEBI is saying that the legal entity in this particular example, in this particular case, is the German bank, right? And not the unit operating out of Hong Kong or Singapore. Number two, the second issue the SEBI's communication touches upon is identification of beneficial ownership. So if there is a FPI investing in India and there is no entity which can be clearly identified as the owner, the threshold for to be considered an owner is having 10% or more invested in a fund, or control. If these two criteria are not met and a natural kind of owner or controller cannot be identified, then the beneficial owner has to be identified as a very senior person and not a junior person or someone managing money, etc. It has to be at a managing partner kind of level. All in all, clear communication from SEBI that it wants to know the end beneficial owner of FPIs, and there are clear timelines given by which it wants this information as well. As I said, we've written to SEBI and are awaiting a response from them. Back to you.
Prashant, many thanks for joining us. Well, from one CNBC-TV18 exclusive to another, we learned from sources that the government will oppose Vedanta's subsidiary AZL's buyout of Vedanta's global zinc assets. The government will reiterate its objections at the AZL AGM. Sapna Das joins us now with the details. Sapna, what exactly is the government objecting to?
Well, we are very clearly given to understand that the government has opposed the buyout of international zinc assets by Hindustan Zinc, which is a subsidiary of Vedanta, and they're going to spend almost like what, $2.98 billion. The government has really raised objection to this, and most likely in the AGM, the objection will be raised once again. In the government's view, this could be a violation on two grounds. Number one, at the board meeting itself, when there were 3 government directors from the Ministry of Mines, they had opposed this at that point in time, but despite that, the exchange filing was done. That basically translates into violation of rights of minority shareholder because government holds over 29% in SZL. Second, this could also mean a contravention of the corporate governance norms. All in all, till this matter is now resolved, the government may not go ahead with its SZL issue. They had to do an OFS before March end. So that hangs in balance now till this matter is resolved. But the government at its end is extremely clear that, despite objecting at the board level itself, the exchange filing happened. 3 government directors from Ministry of Mines opposed it. Nothing happened. Now in the AGM, they are hopeful that, this matter will actually be dropped. The government is trying to make sure that this deal actually doesn't happen. And if you keep in mind the numbers involved, almost $3 billion, maybe the hope was that something could have come in terms of the OFS itself. So all in all, we have to wait and watch and see what really happens on SZL.
Sapna, many thanks for joining us. The union government is now the largest shareholder in Vodafone Idea. The government owns just over 33% of the telecom company after converting the adjusted gross revenue, or the AGR, dues worth more than 16,000 crore rupees into equity. The Vodafone Idea stock rallying in trade. However, analysts do believe that while this is a near-term positive, Vodafone Idea needs billions of dollars to arrest the loss of market share. Rima joins us now with the details. Rima, short-term reprieve, but the hunt for funds continues.
Finally, some good news for Vodafone Idea. After over 1 year, the government has given the go-ahead to convert 16,000 crore of AGR dues into equities. Let's start off by telling you what this means for all the players. For Vodafone Idea, this is a big near-term positive, a big sentiment booster. The government now appears to be committed to the cause of Vodafone Idea, the future of Vodafone Idea, and now with an implicit sovereign backing or a guarantee, Vodafone Idea can go to the banks, raise some money or refinance their existing loan. Dues to vendors can be repaid. Vendors like Indus Towers or even ATC. Remember, Vodafone Idea's proposal to issue 1,600 crore of debentures to ATC Telecom was also contingent on the government approval coming through. Remember, no fresh money is being infused into Vodafone Idea. But as BofA says, Bank of America, that it would free up some cash flows for Vodafone Idea. This, coupled with a potential capital injection by promoters, timing of which is unknown, should help Vodafone Idea clear pending dues of tower companies, vendors, and also invest in 5G. Now, for Indus Towers also, this is a very big positive. Now, Indus Towers has been writing down the receivables from Vodafone Idea for the last 3 quarters. In fact, last quarter, Indus Towers posted its maiden loss because of the write-down of the receivables. But now with the Vodafone Idea perhaps being able to repay Indus Towers, the receivable risk comes down, which is why Indus Towers is rallying in trade. For Bharti Airtel and Jio, this is a near-term negative, because as BofA says, the current government move drastically reduces any risk of Vodafone Idea going into NCLT, and the pace of incremental subscriber gains from Vodafone Idea could also reduce. And in case anyone was pricing in a duopoly for Bharti and Jio, that is unlikely right now. That said, the road ahead for Vodafone Idea isn't going to be very easy. BofA says, according to their channel checks and discussions with vendors, tower companies, Vodafone Idea is significantly underinvested in fiber, 5G and core telecom infrastructure. And it would take Vodafone Idea at least $6 to $8 billion of investment to narrow the gap with peers. This means the company will need to raise external funding to kickstart 5G. External funding could be from investors. It would also mean promoters may need to pump in some money. Remember, peers are already racing ahead with their 5G rollout, but Vodafone Idea is yet to get started when it comes to 5G. And finally, the elephant in the room when it comes to telecom companies are the telecom tariffs. Telecom tariffs will be needed for a long-term sustainable pickup in Vodafone Idea's cash flows.
Rima, many thanks for joining us. Now, aircraft manufacturing giant Boeing is betting big on India's component ecosystem as global supply chain issues linger. Speaking exclusively to CNBC-TV18, the president of Boeing International, Brendan Nelson, said supply chain issues will remain for the next 2 years. He said the company is exploring more opportunities for joint ventures in India, while Nelson didn't confirm the large order that is expected from Boeing's oldest Indian customer, that's Air India, but he did reveal that there are some big announcements lined up for the Aero India show. Speaking about its Make in India plans, Nelson said Boeing's exports from India stood at $1 billion and will grow further as the company expands its footprint. Take a look.
Essentially doing everything we can to keep our supply chains going. One of the things that's really important is that we make sure that our production rates are able to be supplied confidently by the supply chains. The supply chain issues will continue to challenge the industry at least for the next 1, perhaps 2 years. We, Boeing, have 5,000 Indians employed by Boeing in India. We've got 300 suppliers in our supply chain in India at the moment. We invest $1 billion US a year with those suppliers, and that has a multiplier effect of supporting around 14,000 Indians. Very focused on India, and you'll see in the near and medium term we'll be making further announcements about our suppliers who come from India. We will be and are exploring further opportunities for co-development in India that meet the needs of India and of Boeing. I can't be too specific about them at the moment for reasons I hope you would appreciate. We currently have about $1 billion US in exports from India that we have produced here, and we anticipate that that is going to grow.
And you can catch that full interview with Brendan Nelson at 10:30 p.m. right here on CNBC-TV18. Well, we will head into a break, but up next, Tamil Nadu-based Global Pharma recalled its eye drops from the US market after the regulator raises the red flag. The eye drop has been linked to 55 adverse events. More on that when we get back.